As we're coming up on this draft, you and I were just talking about they seem to be, we gonna make JJ McCarthy into leadership He-Man. Like, I just feel like everybody's in the business of making the draft the best television show they possibly can. We got a scout that say about JJ McCarthy before he signed, he was telling other Michigan recruits that if they wanted to party and chase girls, go somewhere else. His class is going to be the one that restored Michigan. To have that mentality and then actually go achieve it, he's different. Let me tell you something. You come in that locker room talking about I want guys that don't want to party, you ain't about to have no homies.
I think there was, I don't want to steal this because I think it was a tweet from the national championship when JJ McCarthy was shown meditating at the goalpost before the game and there were like cameras all over him. Somebody wrote, he's Russell Wilson coded. And I was like, ooh, that's a, you know, in terms of like the locker room presence, there's a little bit of a comp there. Yeah, right. A college guy that's his calling card, I guess. I mean, I think, I do think that he's going to get drafted higher than, like, I actually believe a lot of the smoke around how much NFL teams
really
like him. Yeah. And I don't think it's for I mean, I know that we're joking about the sort of intangible stuff and the, you know, oh yeah, he's just so brilliant between the ears, such a good, you know, good leader and all of that. I actually think the reason why he's going to get drafted higher than anyone expected is his style of play. I just think the same forces that drove up Kirk Cousins' value. I think we actually podcasted right after Kirk Cousins did his deal maybe with Atlanta. And I was saying, I think because there's so many of these Kyle Shanahan coaches around the NFL that actually boosted his value because Kirk Cousins is a quarterback that's a good fit for those offenses. I'm telling you about same thing with JJ. I really think the same thing will happen. There's just those coaches love the idea of taking a quarterback and they can just plug him in and he's going to throw the ball on time and maybe he's not that creative. Maybe he's not like this unbelievable arm, but he's going to do exactly what they want him to do.
Man, let me tell you something. If you come out and they're like, you remind me of Kirk Cousins and that makes them want to take you, there's something wrong with this league, baby. Like, I'm not saying there ain't no place for Kirk Cousins, but that can't be the platonic ideal or nothing that you actually want to do. It's just something that happens and you make the best out of it.
It's something that happens. Like Kirk Cousins is something that happens to you. Here's the thing, though. These coaches, they're so confident in their ability to, like, it's like Kyle Shanahan, Mike McDaniel, like just Sean McVay, they're offensive geniuses. So if anything, it's kind of like them saying, all I need is a guy to sit inside this beautiful machine that I built. I'm the genius. I'm the guy. I just need him to operate it. I don't need a guy who's making plays on his own outside of structure, second reaction throws. And when you think about it through that lens, as like through the lens almost of ego, it kind of makes a little bit more sense.
It does. But like, you absolutely need somebody that can do those things. I thought these would be the lessons that we learned from the greatest quarterback we've ever seen who owns your league right now, right? Like, if you told me he reminds me of Patrick Mahomes, cool, let's do it. If you tell me he reminds me of Josh Allen, it's going to be a bumpy ride, but I guess we got to try. You tell me he reminds me of Kirk Cousins, I'm like, cool, so who we going to take in the first round? We don't take those in the first round. If you get one of those and it works, that's fine, but you don't take it in the first round.
Dude, I know, right? Like, the lesson of Brock Purdy is that you draft Purdy 2.0 in the first round, right? But that's kind of, I mean, he's different from Purdy. I think he's more athletic. But yeah, it's, amongst other things, it is a little bit puzzling. Equally puzzling to me, Bo, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. Drake Maye, who is probably the most Josh Allen-ish of the prospects, he appears to be, maybe it's not real, but he seems to have dropped in a lot of people's estimation. And when I read or hear the critiques of him, it's similar to Josh. It's coaches worrying about, or NFL teams worrying about, is he coachable? Is he, some of the decision making isn't there. Yeah, his traits are incredible. He can make every throw. He's 6'4". He's, incredible athlete. But like, can he really operate our offense? And I'm actually kind of shocked by it all because, like, we look at the top of the NFL, you see the Allens, the Herberts, the Mahomes, the Jacksons. I would have thought the league would now be at a place where you need that to dominate. And yet It seems like a lot of coaches don't feel that way.
I mean, I felt like last year, I think Anthony Richardson was the classic example of you want the guy that's got these traits, right? Just the big, strong, athletic guy. He's got all these things that pop off the screen that Justin Herbert had given us an indication that you want that guy. The Herbert Tua argument was that one, right? Take the big, strong guy over the little bitty guy. Bryce Young, that seemed to be the lesson on that one was, hey, man, he seems to be a very fine young man, right? And little homie be out here doing his best, but it doesn't look like that one's going to work out. It just doesn't. I mean, Mina, he your height. At least when you got heels on, I seen it.
Has there ever been a more brutal evaluation of quarterback play than little homie out here doing his best?
just say it. He's doing his best. It really is, man. It really is, right? Like, I know he got the dog in him. You can't be that height and make the NFL and not have that dog in you. But when you be out there trying to get a peek.
Is Lenny's size. The dog is Lenny's size.
Yeah. But like, no, I'm with you. I would think big, strong, like if you could find big, strong guy that can do incredible things, right? Like, because to me, it's going to get to that at some point in the postseason where your scheme is not going to be enough and you need somebody that could do more than that. One would think that would be what you did. Like Bill Walsh is the godfather of the just run my scheme, but Montana and Young were both guys that could do something outside of that scheme. I don't understand why you would get a guy that you know can't.
I wonder if people look at like San Francisco trading up for Trey Lance, because that was the Super Bowl where they were like, wow, Jimmy Garoppolo can only take us so far. We need the dude. We need the guy who can do the things, the guy with the traits. And they missed horribly, right? And it didn't matter because they drafted so well otherwise. Shanahan's a great coach, whatever. But I do wonder if that's like certain people in that tree. I'm not saying in the NFL because Richardson went 5. Like this is still a thing that people still value traits a lot. And maybe I'll be wrong, by the way. And maybe Maye will go 2nd overall and this will all be for not. But I do wonder if that coaching tree was like, maybe not. Maybe traits don't matter as much.
That whole 2021 draft, we're just going to have to chalk up as being really weird, right? It's the post-COVID year. It's interesting. One of the lessons I felt like we learned from that was the guys who said, I'm not playing this year turned out to be okay. Jamar Chase, Penix Jr, Rashawn Slater. I think he was another, like a lot of the opt-out guys turned out to be okay, but all the quarterbacks have disappointed, including the generational prospect that was at the top of the draft. Every single one of them is disappointed.
It is a weird year too, because I remember recently that that year was brought up as we look to this class, and it does seem like 4 quarterbacks will probably go in the first round at least. I saw that draft brought up, and the last couple of years, obviously Pickett didn't work out either. This latest season, we have like CJ Stroud's amazing, and we'll see what happens with Richardson, Young. But 21 and 22 were brought up as like, hey man, like some pretty bad quarterback classes, and maybe quarterback development isn't what it was. However, all you got to do is go back to the previous 3 years and you got tons of starters, and like 18, obviously 19, 20. So I think you're right. I think it's more of like a one-off kind of thing. And maybe the COVID year affected evaluation to some degree because of that. But it wouldn't scare me from taking quarterback at the top of this draft. Let me put it that way. I think these guys, the top 3, I like them all a lot, to be honest. There's a lot of talk about like New England trading down. I wouldn't do it. I would take one of the top 3.
My thing is, if you can get a quarterback after 15, you should wait till 40. Yeah. Wait till the second round. Like if nobody, I realized that when Washington took Dwayne Haskins, God rest his soul, but the fact that nobody jumped up to steal him should have been the clearest sign to them that, like, if you could wait to get the quarterback, you probably don't want the quarterback. Like, the thing that gets me about Drake Maye is Lamar Jackson is one of the exceptional cases in this one, but if a quarterback is falling in a draft, that is a really, really, really bad sign. Like, not just slipping, but falling. Justin Fields, I think, is another example.
I mean, the track record across last 10 years and beyond of quarterbacks taken in the second half of the first round is bad. It's bad. And I think with the cases where it's worked, there's sort of confounding, like there's extra like factors that explain why it happened. Lamar, the NFL, just not understanding how to evaluate him, and I think that's changed a little bit with regards to how the league views quarterback mobility, and also like completely misunderstanding what he did in that offense and his capabilities. And then Jordan Love, that was one where, well, it was a very unique situation in Green Bay. I really think there's a universe in which Jordan Love is drafted by someone else, goes to a team, starts away and stinks. I think he's awesome, but those to me feel like more like aberrations. Like I think it's far more likely it's like the guys you talked about. Pickett, who was 22, I think. Mac Jones was taken in the second half of the first round. Like that seems far more likely than the idea that you're going to hit on the next Lamar or Jordan Love.
Yeah. By the way, saw somebody mention in the chat room, and you with your husky inclinations. What about your man Penix?
I mean, the Asian injury stuff is real.
Yeah, the Carfax are bad. The Carfax are terrible.
We keep like having this conversation. Okay, but if he didn't have the injury history and he wasn't older, then, and it's like, well, but that's not the world we live in. I mean, like, I don't know what to say. Like, I think he's worth taking a flyer on for sure. I wouldn't do it in the first round personally, but like the arm talent is such, and he truly, by the way, seems like a great leader, and he's smart, and I think he's someone where I would love a team like the Raiders, who I've mentioned, who need a guy to come in and compete. I wouldn't take him at 13, but if they could get him later, bring him compete. You need him to compete and start right away, because he's more like a quarterback who's probably at his ceiling than his floor, right? Because of the age and all that. But just the history at that position with injuries in that age, the kind of injuries he's had, it's not good. I mean, I would love for him to prove that all wrong, but I can completely see why teams would be reluctant to draft him.
Yeah, like Drake, maybe we're talking about that. If you start falling, like that's somebody knows something I don't know here, right? This NFL ain't that much in this world change. If they take Jaden Daniels over Drake Maye, that is not a good sign for Drake Maye. He is walking in there with 5 extra credit points on every test, and and if somebody goes to that other one, it's not a good sign. The NBA playoffs are right around the corner. Get in on the playoff action and win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks as you and the world's best players take the game to a new level during basketball's postseason. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000 with basketball, hockey, and baseball entries today on Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. So make sure you go to prizepicks.com/Bomani and use code Bomani for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/Bomani. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy.